about the 17 different ways to buy houses so you don't get rejected by sellers. And I'm a little bit fired up. I got to warn you because uh, right now, like I see people, they stumble into these leads and then they don't know what to do. They go in with one plan and they try to swing for the fences, hit a home run, and well, really what they do is they go in with a lowball cash offer to a seller. And as a real estate investor, like going in with a lowball cash offer, that's like a punch in the gut to somebody. And if you just go in with that and that's your plan, like good luck. This business is really, really tough. So I'm doing this episode because I want to make sure that we show you some more diversity. We show you a little bit of humanity. We show you something that can help you get more results with sellers that are out there. Okay. So the topic of the day is 17 different ways to make offers so that you don't get rejected by sellers. And I've got my comment stream over here so you can ask questions, you can fire away. Hopefully it all integrates and works okay, but I've got that. And we're going to get here rocking, okay? We're going to be covering three main principles. We're going to be covering what you should be doing to make sure that you're looking out not only for your best interest, but also for the sellers. That's right. This is a win-win game. You want to set these solutions up so that the seller feels like they're winning too. You don't always want to just take. Okay. The second thing we're going to be talking about is the different purchasing structures. So, hey, Juan, nice to have you on. So the different purchasing structures, there's a lot of different ways to buy houses. There's 17. Actually, if you really dig deep in this subject, there's 60 or more. Some of my mentors have even crazier ways to put deals together, but I've locked this down to 17 that I focus on with our group, and that's the way that we make this whole business work. So we're going to be talking about some of those. I'm actually going to give you some real life examples so that you can start implementing them in your real estate business right away. Okay. The third thing we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about detailing out the process for the sellers. I cannot tell you how many deals I've seen fall apart without detailing out the process for the sellers. So I'm going to give you my detailed out process so that you can actually take that. Okay. So this is the topic of the day. If you've got your questions, go ahead and fire away. If you got a comment that you want to drop, you can fire that away too. What better to do on a fine day like this, huh? Get some little bit of real estate wisdom in your brain so that you can start helping some sellers out and start getting some more deals done. So let's get to it. Okay. So first off, having the seller's best interests in mind is it's the number one rule in this business. If you go in with basically saying, you know what, I'm just going to take, sellers can feel that. You've got to have heart. You've got to make them feel and know that you care about them too, because they can feel that 100%. And the golden rule for this business is that you've got to treat others how you would like to be treated. Okay. So that's first and foremost. Okay. When we enter any conversation with the seller, we're trying to treat them as we would want to treat them. Like I picture myself, if something happened to me and my wife had to meet with somebody buying the property, how would I want that person to treat them? One of my mentors said it another way, said, hey, if I died and my mom was alone meeting with somebody to sell her house, how would I want them to treat my mom? That's how you've got to treat sellers, because they feel it. They totally feel it. Okay. Now, the next part is that there's so much pressure, especially if you're newer in the business. Like you sit down with the seller or you're doing it by phone because of this whole situation that we're in right now. And there's this pressure that you're feeling like you like have to jam something through sometimes when you're new, or because you don't know what to say or how to say it. Can I teach you something that's just going to let the pressure off? Like totally let it out of the room. Take that pink elephant that's there and pop it. Okay. This is what you do. This is what you say. It's really simple. Hey, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, I just want you to know that sometimes these deals work where I can work with you, and sometimes they don't. And both are totally okay. If it works, great. That's like an optimum case scenario. That's optimum. If it doesn't work, then you know what? Then that's okay too. Maybe I'll get a referral for you. One of our great members, Peter, actually taught me that line right there. It's so good that we let the folks know that there's no pressure. We don't have to do anything crazy or anything like that. Okay. Next, you've got to learn to listen to key details that they give you. I have to as well. I have to sharpen this every single day. And I've been at this for a long time. A lot of times what's important to the seller is not as much of the things that you think are important. Okay. So I bet you think, and at least I did when I first started, that the most important thing is the price. Like, it's got to nail the price, got to nail the price, got to nail the price. When in reality, that's not always the most important thing. Okay. And so what you have to do is just listen more than you talk. Just totally take notes, pay attention to what they're saying. I've got a property in Nashville that's coming together for me right now that literally on it, the seller, I'm dealing with the sister, and the sister's a really nice lady. It's an estate situation. Unfortunately, her brother passed, and so she's selling it for the estate. And one of the things that was really important to her, it's also important to me because I paid attention, is that the property, the seller of it, the original seller, the guy that died, he had some wishes that were to be done with the property. And I paid attention to those wishes. So more important than the numbers, when I presented my offer, I said, you know what? I want to carry forward with his wishes. He wanted XYZ done. I'm going to do XYZ. In this case, he wanted it to be developed either into parcels of 1 acre lots, or he wanted it to be done into some kind of rehabilitation center. So I gave the seller my word, and I told her that we could write it into the deed as a deed restriction, that we would fulfill on that promise. And to her and to the family, it means more than the actual price. Yes, price is an influence in the equation, but when you can actually really sit back and understand where the seller's at and pay attention to that, you get so much further with each of the sellers. Okay. I know this to be true because a friend of mine, he's in the real estate business himself. Oh, can you hear me now? Yep, you can hear me now. Okay, good. He said, congratulations, congratulations. And I said, what are you congratulating? You coming in, buddy? Here.
I was just finishing.
Michael.
Mom beat me.
Mom beat you? What'd she beat you in?
Chess.
She beat you in chess?
Uh-huh.
How'd you lose to Mom? Last night you beat her.
Hear
me now. Yep.
Because I got my queen out because I also want to protect her face.
Well, come on up here and join me, okay? So Bianco just lost in chess to Mom. He lost. Last night he beat her. Tonight he lost. Oh, well. Okay. So right now, Bianca, what we're talking about is we just got done talking about that you got to treat sellers first how you would want to be treated. That's number one rule. Now we're going to transition over and we're going to start talking about the different types of structures in which you can actually buy properties. Okay. So how do these go? Well, the structures go like this. Well, first, let me finish how to treat people. Okay. A friend of mine who's also in the real estate business, he came to me one day and he said, "Hey, Nate, congratulations. You got that deal." And I'm like, "Which deal?" He's like, "The one over on Idaho Avenue in St. Paul." And I'm like, yeah, we got that deal. How do you know about it? He's like, "Oh, I saw your offer that was there." And I'm like, "You saw my offer?" He's like, "Yeah, the seller must have got multiple offers." And then he's like, the thing is, like, I don't know how I missed it. I totally did. I just missed it. And we started going back and forth. And he's like, "So how much did you end up getting it for? You must have overpaid me." And I told him my number, and then he told me his number. My number was $9,000 less than his number. $9,000 less than his number. And then we started talking about like closing time frames and all that kind of stuff. And what was revealed in there is that I paid more attention to what the seller really needed. So the seller needed to close in a certain time frame, and it wasn't a fast time frame. It was a little bit longer, actually. And so when all this came out, and he's like, "Holy cow, I missed that. I didn't even know." Well, that's what it was. He missed something. He missed something that was important to the seller. And I've had my mistakes too as well. Like anyone can have it happen to them. But if you just pay attention to what's important to them, then you're going to pick up more deals that way. All right. So I know you're here for the good stuff. You're here because you want to know some of these methods in which the 17 different ways to buy houses so that you don't get rejected by sellers. So let me give you the first one. Before I do that, though, I want to give you a quote. This is a quote from Mr. Dealmaker before he was our president. I'm not talking politics right here right now either, but before he was our president, he was Mr. Dealmaker. Donald Trump said, "Sometimes the best deals are the ones you don't make." The ones you don't make, okay? So that just kind of goes back and reaffirms the last point too, that sometimes when you're sitting down with the seller, if you want to let the pressure out of the room, you simply say, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. That's it. Okay. All right. So let me give you a couple of some of these structures. And before I start getting into the structures, because I don't want to like push people too far down in the weeds and complicate what's going on in their mind about these. So before I get too far down in the weeds, let me just explain this. There are a lot of different ways to put these things together. There's trust strategies, there's options, there's contract for deeds, there's rent to owns, there's subject to, there's wrap mortgages. And all of these can be mixed and matched in different ways. That's why you can actually get over 60 different ways to buy houses, but we're going to focus on the 17. And I'm going to highlight some that are my favorites right here, right now. Okay. And if you want help with these, if you want my team to help you with these, then what you can do is you can actually jump out and book a call with us. We've got an entire training that we put together on this. You can watch it scrolling on the screen. It's at socialmediablueprint.com/group. You can jump onto that training. And then if that stuff is like, oh gosh, I love that stuff makes sense, then there's an option where you can actually connect with my team and we'll help you go through these 17 different ways. Huh, Mr. Fish? What do you think about that?
Yeah.
You got the fish face on?
Yeah, well, your fish.
My fish face? Okay, so I'm going to start going into these different structures now. And you probably might say, well, Nate, hold on. If we're going to do something that's like seller financed, as an example, seller finance, there's a lot of different ways to structure that. How do you prevent the due on sale clause? Because as soon as you transfer the deed, then it's going to trigger the due on sale clause. The due on sale clause simply means that when a mortgage is issued to a seller, or not to a seller, but to an owner, and then the owner decides to sell the property, so they transfer the deed, but they don't pay off the mortgage, then the lender, they usually have something written in the mortgage called a due on sale clause, which means that they can say, you know what, you didn't pay me off when you transferred that deed. The mortgage is now due in full. You got to pay that whole thing in full. You got Erasmo watching you. He says, awesome, new tools to add to your client helping arsenal. Yeah, this is the arsenal. This is the lineup. These are what you need, okay? So this first part's important though. A lot of people think, well, gosh, I'm going to trigger the due on sale clause, so some of these won't work. What you need to Google search after this is you need to Google search the St. Germain Act of 1982. A little bit before I was born. Well, a year, not too much. But a year before I was born, President Reagan signed into law an act that allows people to put properties into a trust for estate planning purposes. Okay. Thank you to my mentor, Lou Brown, for teaching me this rule. Okay. I've used different entity structures before, but I hadn't used one clearly to prevent the due on sale clause. So I'm actually going to tell you about a mistake that I made by missing that before. So now you have the strategy. Now you know how to not have the due on sale clause triggered. Okay. So you're going to use this trust strategy. If you want to talk in detail about that, again, you can use the website that I put up there for you. You go there, check out what we put together, and then you can talk to our team and we can walk you through how to use that strategy. But here it is, okay? The first structure. This is what I call the RCD. The RCD, okay? That stands for Repair Credit Down Payment / Get the Deed, okay? RCD, okay? You'll better understand it when I illustrate it for you, okay? I had a seller come to us that wanted full market price. Actually, in some degree, probably over market price is what he really wanted. The house is in pristine condition. Beautiful, beautiful property. $615,000 house, roughly. And I'm going back and forth with him a little bit, and he's stuck on retail price. And you probably dealt with a seller that wanted retail price before. It's the most common price they want. And we started going back and forth on it. And in conversation, I realized that the thing for him was the most important was the number. He wanted a number. So I went back and I got out my fancy seller net sheet and I worked through the numbers with him, literally line item, boom, 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 pointing out that, hey, even if you sold this for retail price with a real estate agent, your bottom line net is not going to be this top line number because you've got expenses, you've got commissions, you've got closing costs, you've got holding costs, you got this, you got that. And then after I went through that, he agreed with me. He said, you know what? You're right. You're right. I understand it. I get it. So this number right here is the number that I could take. And I said, okay, well, that number right there, if you want that to be cash, then I have to go borrow that cash, which then has a cost. And then it's going to drop that number even more if I've got to go borrow the cash for it. And he said, well, that's the number I want. And I said, okay, well, we can get you there. The way that I can get you there is that if I don't have to go and borrow this cash, instead of me borrowing it, and this number, by the way, is 550,000. So worth 610,000, I can get it for 550. Now, some of you, and some wholesalers especially, would say, hold on, there's not enough room, but bear with me. Hold on, I'll show you where the room is, okay? So he's got me to the point where we're in agreement on this 550 verbally, but now I'm converting him from, instead of me giving him cash, instead what we're going to do is I say, hey, instead of me having to go borrow this money from somebody else, how about I bring this to you, but I do it in installment payments? Would you like to have a reliable, consistent income stream now over the next 10 or more years? And he said, well, what does that mean? And then I entered this whole conversation around the RCD, okay? The RCD is repair credit down payment, okay? So when we started talking about this whole seller financing thing, he's like, well, how do I know that you're not going to like get into the property and then do damage and then walk away and then leave me in a bad spot? And so then he stuck in his mind, he was firm, and he's like, well, if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to take installment payments from you each month, then I have to have a down payment of some kind. He just stuck that in his mind. And I said, okay, well, you're mainly concerned that something might happen and then I might walk away. He's like, yeah, exactly. I said, okay, I get it. I understand that. How about this? The house needs some work. Not much. I mean, literally, it's going to need a roof eventually, but I pointed that out. I said, hey, eventually it's going to need a roof. And I said, the real reason that this house hasn't really moved yet is because it's missing a swimming pool. In this area, everybody's got a pool in this price range, so you got to have a pool. How about you give me, within a couple of years, I'll put the pool in and I'll make sure the roof is done. We went back and forth on a little bit. He ended up saying yes. He agreed. I got him down also. He wanted 7% interest. I got it down to 4% interest. And we called it a deal there, okay? Now, for those of you who are like, well, Nate, what's the rest of the story? How are you making money on that thing? Because there's not enough room. Think about this. I got a 4% interest rate on $550,000, and I've got an interest-only loan locked up. Literally taking the deed transferred to me at closing. I'm not doing like subject to or anything like that, nothing like that. Instead, I'm taking the deed at closing, and then I'm issuing him back a mortgage on the property, okay? So then he's got the mortgage in place. I make him an interest-only payment. It's a little over $1,800, $1,850 roughly. And so that's my interest-only payment. I got a 10-year term locked up with him. So I'm paying him $1,850 per month for 10 years, okay? The market rate rent of that property is around $3,500. So I could rent it in cash flow strong. But I'm taking this a step further. I'm going to do a rent to own, and my end buyer will give a 10% down payment. I don't accept anything less than 10% of my down payments. I market really heavy until I get a lot of buyers that line up and I get a lot of applications in. And then my rent to own buyer will give me a 10% down payment. I'll sell it to them for $600,000. So guess what? On a $600,000 purchase price with a $10,000 down payment, that's a $60K down payment, $60,000. Okay. How about them apples? So those the folks that said, well, hey, that's not enough room to wholesale. Wholesalers are typically aiming to make between $5,000 and $15,000 per deal. If you instead could take a little bit more time and structure one of these RCDs, the RCD will pay much, much more in the end if it's structured how I just described it out to be. Okay. So that is the RCD. You like that one? Okay, good. And Erasmus said, if you're just starting out, how are you making payments on the mortgage? Okay, so the other question, the interesting part on that is I negotiated zero down, right? Zero down payment, zero. And instead, what you can do when you sign the contract, if you're worried about like even making 1 month of a mortgage payment, what you can do is you can say, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, how about this? How about I'll close on it just like you're describing. I'll get you the price that you want, but we don't start the first payment for 60 days or 90 days. So you just put it out there like that. So that gives you a little bit of a cushion. Now you got time to market it and find your rent to own buyer. Now you're not coming out of money with you're not coming out of pocket with your own funds. That's how you structure that. Okay. The next one, option number 2. This one's called the DD. The double D. I don't know if that's an appropriate term or not. Double D, what do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. The double D. Okay, here's the double D. I know I'm a Christian father and I'm supposed to be a good father. I'm joking around right now. What I'm joking around about right now is that a double D is actually a bra size. And some people joke about that. I shouldn't joke about that. Okay, I'll get back to what I'm supposed to be talking about. I'm going to get back to the delayed down payment. Okay, this is the delayed down payment. Okay, Mr. Seller or Mrs. Seller, we can't do the cash price, so we're going to convert this and come back up to, we're going to get you this price, this closer to full market value price. And for me to do that, instead of me going and borrowing money, I'm just going to pay the interest that I would have paid to somebody else to you. But then the seller's like, well, I need a down payment. I need a down payment. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to structure it so it's delayed. I had one of these in South Minneapolis. South Minneapolis seller tells me, they're like, well, we don't really like the whole seller finance thing, but we'll do it as long as we get a big chunk of money. I do need 40 grand. I need $40,000. Why do you need 40,000, Mr. Seller? Oh, because I'm moving mom into a nursing home and I got to pay some of the bills. Okay, Mr. Seller, we'll figure that out. How long in which do you need it? Well, I need it right away. And I'm like, well, can you wait 6 months? It's like, well, okay, I'll figure it out. 6 months. Okay, now I've got a structure where I can delay the down payment. And that's what I did in this case. So we delayed it in the contract for 6 months. So what I did in that property is I quickly renovated it. I closed on the deal, no down payment, 0 down. I closed on it. I quickly cleaned the property up. I got it back on the market, and then I got a contract on it right away to sell it. And then I was able to cash them out within the 6 months. So that's how I did the delayed down payment on that one. Okay, that's another way to structure. Now, a third way to structure, and this is probably the most common one that will appease the sellers. Okay, I did this one on a house in Medina, Minnesota. I've done this numerous times, but on a house in Medina, Minnesota, I remember it very, very clearly. This is called the SD. The SD, okay, stands for small down payment, small down payment. And again, backing up, if you missed my talk about 5 minutes ago, there's so many different structures and how you can legally do this. Like, you're going to have your attorney structure this. Verbally, you talk this out with the seller and you write it up in a purchase agreement, but ultimately your attorney should structure this stuff for you so that it's done the right way. There's trusts that you can set up. There's option agreements. There's contract for deeds. There's rent-to-own agreements. There's wrap agreements. There's subject-to agreements. All kinds of different structures in which you can put these to actual practice. But let's talk about these verbally so that you know how to talk about them with the seller, okay? So the third one we're going to cover tonight is called the SD. The SD stands for small down payment, okay? So I had this house on Fern Street in Medina, Minnesota. It's out by Lake Independence, great little area. We've owned a few houses out there. And this house in particular, the sellers, they were looking for close to market value, if not market value. It's probably right around or at market value, and off market from marketing. And we end up starting to talk to them and go back and forth on it. We discovered and realized that they were stuck on pretty much full market value. So we ended up agreeing to it because what we recognized is that our payment to them, it was a small down payment. It was under 10 grand. Our payment to them, our payment that was due to them each month was around $1,200. That covered the taxes, the mortgage, the insurance. The market rate rent for the house was $1,800. So this particular house, we just straight up rented it out to a really nice teacher. Teacher moved in, took care of the place for 2 years. What happened? So we had a 2-year term with this seller. I tried to get longer than that, but 2 years is all that the seller would do. So we had a 2-year term with the seller. The tenant stayed there the whole time, paid rent the whole time. And then when it came up to the end of the lease, the tenant didn't want to renew the second time, which has actually worked out good for us because then we just listed the house for sale. And we got a buyer for it, and then we were able to cash out the seller. Boom, just like that. And so for us, it worked out. We ended up making cash flow and rent in the middle, and then on the back end of it, we made a little bit of extra profit. And you know how much for us, like the return on investment for that property was insane because we put down 10 grand or less, something like that. It was under 10 grand. And then on the cash flow in the middle, we got back all that 10 grand, plus we made more money on the backside. So the cash on cash return for it was totally insane. Okay, so that's the SD, the small down payment. Okay, now one thing, a big mistake that I made when structuring one of these deals that I just mentioned, I missed out on the St. Germain Act of 1982. That's the due on sale clause. So what I did is I had the property. I took over a property subject to the seller's existing mortgage, and I just started making payments straight to the lender. And the lender didn't like that so much for whatever reason. Normally, lenders don't care. Like, as long as they're getting the mortgage payment in, then everything's fine. But this lender didn't like it, so they called the note due. And so I quickly had to fire sale that property. So I sold it really fast. So don't make that mistake. Instead, you need to get with your attorney, and you need to have a trust made up, and then follow the St. Germain Act of 1982 to a T. That's the way to prevent a lender getting greedy and trying to trigger the due on sale clause. It's the only time it's ever happened to me before. Hundreds and hundreds of properties. It's the only time it's ever happened is that one time. But because of that, now I follow the right strategy. Okay, next thing. You guys know what Mark Cuban said? You getting bored of me already?
I don't know.
Getting bored? Okay, we only got one more topic that we're going to cover. First, I want to cover what Mark Cuban said about sweat equity. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So Mark Cuban said that sweat equity is the most valuable equity that's out there. The most valuable equity that's out there. Okay, so on these zero down deals, you're creating the value in the property. Like, you can do amazing things. So let's listen to Mark on that one. Okay, so here's the third thing, and I'm just going to hit these bullet points really fast. When you're with the seller at every single step, if you don't want to be rejected, or if you don't want the deal to fall apart, at every single step, what you need to do is you need to spell out what the next steps are. So literally on the very first call, you're going to say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, on this call, we're going to do this, 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 and this. And then when we get together to do a walkthrough on your house, we're going to do this, this, and this, and this. And then if we decide that it's meant for us to work together, here's what the process looks like, this, this, and this. If you'll do those things, if you'll really detail it out for them, then the seller, they'll start to visualize it in their mind. And then they can, if they've got an objection or a problem with it, they'll tell you right then and there. What I see most rookie people doing, and I've made the mistake in the past before too, is that they don't detail it out. And then therefore, what happens is that the seller gets surprised by something, and that causes a rift, and trust is broken and the deal might fall apart. So what do I do for each of these? Okay, first off, when I'm on the actual call, I'll tell them, hey, on this call, here's what we're going to cover. We're going to go through some information about your property. I'm going to figure out a couple of details like square footage of the house, bed, bath count, what kind of the numbers look like generally. And then I'm going to run some research tonight. I'm going to run comps. And then tomorrow we'll get together and I can actually present the offer. Tomorrow when I'm there, we're going to be going through the property together. We'll take a look around at all the rooms. I like to take pictures while I'm there. And then we'll sit down and we'll talk and we'll figure out if we can work together. If we can, we can. Awesome. If we can't, we can't. Okay. So I'm walking them through and I'm foreshadowing what's going to happen next. Okay. The next day I'm at the property. I get there. I say, hey, remember, Mr. Seller, I said, hey, on the phone, this is what we're going to do. It's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to do a walkthrough on the property. And then after that, then we'll sit down and we'll talk a little bit about the numbers. And then after we're done talking about the numbers, we'll talk about the process. And then if you and I both think that it's a good fit, then what we'll do is we'll move forward and then I'll talk you through the whole closing process. And then you go about your business, walk the property with them, sit down, start talking about the process. And then you literally foreshadow the next step. Like, this is what closing looks like. This is how this works. So you lay out this entire process for them so that they can visualize it in their mind. They can object if they have an objection. So like if they say, well, no, I don't want to use that title company. Like, you want them to tell you right then and there if they don't want something, so then they can decide. If they do it by themselves later and you can't fix it, like it's something silly like, well, I want a different title company, then you might lose the deal. So instead, you want to actually talk about it out loud. That's a secret to making sure that deals don't get canceled down the road. Okay, we have covered a lot. Mr. Bianco, we covered a lot. Okay, we're going to wrap this thing up and say goodbye, but I want to do two things. We've got a super, super special episode coming up next we've been working on for a while. But the next one is the 2 surprising things that you need to have when you talk to sellers that makes the deals go through like popcorn at a movie theater. No joke. Like, you got to have these 2 things. These 2 things, they make deals go through.
What do you want to get the car moving?
you're going to see on the next episode. You guys are going to see. So you can make sure you tune in for the next episode. Okay. The next episode, we're talking about these 2 surprising things that you need to have with every seller phone call, every seller conversation. And then they'll start making your deals go through like popcorn at a movie theater. Okay. So we appreciate you. If you've got questions or comments, you know where to drop them right below. We love them. It helps us make sure that we've got the right answers getting out to our tribe and our community. We look forward to helping you more. Have a good rest of your weekend.
Bye. 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 Bye.